In this video, I'm going to show you how to properly drain, fill, and I'm going to go over how to flush the coolant on this Toyota Camry with a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. If you need any parts for your vehicle, check us out at oneauto.com. Let's get started. From underneath the front of the vehicle, you'll see this splash shield here that protects everything, but right underneath it, you'll see your radiator drain. This is the petcock. We'll have to turn this counterclockwise and coolant will come out of here. Now there is a hole provided in the splash shield right here. However, if you have a piece of hose that will go right onto this spout here, go ahead and use it. It will minimize the mess. That's exactly what I'm gonna do. If not, that's all right. The coolant should come straight out here, but sometimes it does splash on the splash shield and kind of get all over the place. Stick this in if you have it. There we go. And now turn this counterclockwise. Sometimes you'll need some pliers. It looks like that's the case for me. A lot of times these get stuck just from being out in the open here. Any small pliers you have should do the trick. This should not require a lot of force. Also make sure you don't break it when you do this. And don't take this all the way out, just remove it until coolant starts coming out of here. If you take it all the way out, it's going to start shooting coolant out the back where the plug is. All right, I have coolant coming out of my drain hose right now. So let's go up top, open that radiator cap so we can relieve the vacuum that is currently being pulled by coolant coming out of here. At the top, remove the radiator cap by turning this counterclockwise. I'm just going to set it right back down here, but not actually tighten it on. My coolant is pretty much done draining, so I'm going to close this off again, make sure it's nice and snug, ready for reassembly. You don't have to use pliers to tighten it. It can break just by hand. There is an O-ring inside here that does the sealing, so just snug it and you should be good to go. However, I will absorb all this drippage that's happening here so that it doesn't continue dripping on the ground. There we go. Now at this point, if you were to flush the system, you have two options. One, you could use distilled water. What you would do with that is fill up the system, run the vehicle. After the thermostat opens, wait for it to cool down, drain the system, and repeat the process until you have flushed everything out. However, the downside of that is you will have distilled water left in the system, in the cooling system, in the engine block, once you are done. So you're going to need concentrated coolant to mix with that distilled water, and then at the end, when you think you're done, you're going to have to test that coolant to make sure that it is diluted properly. If it's too strong, it can cause corrosion. If it's too weak, it can not operate properly and also cause corrosion in some cases. So you want to make sure that it is perfectly mixed 50-50 or per manufacturer's specifications depending on what you're using. Now the second option, which is the easier choice to be honest, is going to be to use mixed or pre-mixed coolant. Put that in the system. If you think you have extremely contaminated coolant, after you run the vehicle and warm it up, thermostat opens, drain that, fill it back up, test it if you need to, but then you should be all set on that last fill up. It'll be ready to go. You do not have to worry about coolant that is improperly mixed and water or distilled water being in the cooling system. So that's the way I would do it. Having said that, I will not be actually showing you how to flush this system because it's basically just several drains and fills with running the vehicle in between. So let's get into filling the cooling system. To fill the cooling system, I have a funnel set up on the radiator cap here. It's a spill-proof funnel and it also helps bleed because now this is going to be the highest point in the cooling system and naturally air is going to want to rise in here and bubble out. If you don't have this, well, just make sure you don't spill all over the place and keep the area nice and dry. I'm going to use coolant that is appropriate for this vehicle. If you're unsure of what to use, check your owner's manual and that should guide you in using the proper type of coolant. I'm going to fill this up, not all the way, but about halfway, and then let it bubble. Naturally, the air is going to want to rise to the top. It stopped bubbling, so at this point you want to run the vehicle until it gets up to operating temperature. Let that water pump circulate all the coolant and hopefully push the rest of the air out of the system, and you'll see it bubbling up through the funnel. In here, you're going to want the blower motor on low, the heat all the way up, and I'd like to have it blow on the vents so I can feel the heat. Make sure recirculate is off and AC is also off. And watch that temperature gauge to make sure it doesn't climb above the halfway point. If it does, shut it off. It's most likely just an air bubble, but as long as it stays at operating temperature, let's shut it off and cap everything off. Squeeze on the upper radiator hose just a little bit as you plug this off if you use one of these funnels, and then let go of that radiator hose as you pull this out. This is going to minimize the spillage here. Now, of course, I still spilled a little bit. I'm going to clean this up with a rag in a little bit, but now we can pull this off and reinstall our radiator cap. We'll find its spot that it wants to sit in and turn it 2 clicks to the right. There you go, that's tight. I'm going to put the rest of my coolant in my overflow tank. As you can see, it's pretty empty. So if you don't already have it full, go ahead and fill it. Take this cap off and fill it to the full line. Right about there. I know it's a tiny bit under, but that's perfect. That's everything I had in my funnel. As long as it's pretty much full, this is just a reserve basically. Cap that off, and there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it was helpful. If you have anything to say, leave it in the comment section below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you can stay up to date with all of our latest content. Thanks for watching.